And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
And we also founded Codename, so yay.
We will be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we take time off, the show doesn't happen.
It's so far, so true. Anyway, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Guess it, and you don't have to answer questions this episode.
56-ish?
56? 56? Oh man, now it's all I can think about. I'm going to make you answer all the questions. You no good 56 and...
Actually, today is our 56th episode.
Obviously. And I've been waiting 55 episodes to use that reference.
I had to look that reference up. I don't know that many people are as crazy about Futurama as you are.
I'm not crazy. Don't call me crazy. I'm just not user-friendly.
Okay, yes, well, okay. Now that that's over with, let's get the episode started.
Fine.
As always, we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
And if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of Iron Man 3.
I don't remember watching that one, but I'm sure I've seen them all.
Blocked it out, huh?
I guess so. I hope we get questions, or else I'm just going to have to improvise the whole thing.
Gonna be worse than the original.
Yeah. I'm expecting an angry email from Shane Black any minute now.
Shane Black?
He's the writer and director of Iron Man 3. Come on.
Oh. Didn't leave a mark on me. Anyway, as always, we have pulled forward some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, and we'll get to some of those after we answer or have some updates from items that have been flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further poorly stalling for time, let's get started with those. Okay, boop-to-do. All right, good news, everyone. We have some fixes and new features. First item here, which I have in all caps. I'm not going to ask Peter why he put it in here in all caps, but the challenges now will show the description of the completed challenge in the pop-up. So it was requested. It was one of the ones on the Dev Insights list, was that challenges, when they show, it just says challenge complete and doesn't tell you which one you completed. It will now show the description of that, because as it turned out when we were looking at those, they don't actually have titles, but just descriptions. So those will show in the pop-up. They fixed an issue.
That's for patron challenges.
Yes.
Yeah.
We fixed an issue where familiars were not being placed on the ultimate bar during a Modron reset. We've added the option to get to the seasons dialogue from the campaign map. The campaign map will now center on the last location you completed an adventure instead of scrolling all the way down to the bottom,
Yes!
which I know was a thorn in many people's sides for the last couple of weeks, especially with the larger map. And now the season reward tiers inside of the season dialogue can be collapsed and expanded. So it should make it easier to scroll through there. We have some ongoing items. Look, you crossed one off here. It says bug Justin about the missing note on the strong core, and it's crossed off.
We agreed in chat that we wouldn't do that one today.
Oh, who's we?
Me and one person in chat.
Oh, I see. I missed that. Okay. Anyway, we're also going to add the ability to scroll the journal using keyboard keys, recall for familiars, better cycling for champions in console view, slider for using multiple scrolls at once in trials, an indicator for unread changelog items, also an indicator if the background party is no longer auto-progressing. We're going to get that pass in on checking that every window or dialogue closes properly when you hit escape, saving feats with formations, and I still have those colorblind friendly card updates to get in, and so that is still on the ongoing list. So that's it. Let's proceed into our leftover questions.
Fantastic. Let's.
First question of the, well, it's not of the day. First leftover question. This one is from Rough Rider 91. The question is the Nova crew buff designed to be slanted against champions like Arcan and Makos, who don't level up as high as other champions?
Yes, there is an incentive with the Nova crew buff to, or ability to use champions who basically have a shallower cost curve, so they level up to higher levels for the same amount of gold. So yes, there is a slight optimization you can make there in your formations by using just champions that level up really high. And of course, the opposite is true. You'll get less benefit if you use champions who level up or cap lower. It is intentional.
Okay. Justin, I just want to point out, looking at the chat here, not only did they get the references, people here are recommending that Roberto should be the next champion. So
some people got the reference. But yes, the crew is actually set up that way to encourage Delina and main DPS. That is true. All right. Let's see. The next question here is from Mr. Tame. Hopefully the question will be tame as well. And they ask, will we ever be able to have greater control over UI scaling? I play on a small screen where the UI covers useful information often, but the current UI slider doesn't seem to have any effect that I can see.
Yeah, so in the settings, if you've played around with the UI scaling, you'll find that there's a slider that only works if the screen resolution is higher. Shoot, what does it need to be higher than? I think it's 1280 by 960 is kind of the cutoff for that to make a difference. And I think that was put in originally because the scale of the UI sort of at higher resolutions, like at 1080p or higher, those UI elements took up more space than was necessary, and you could scale them down. But if you're playing at a lower resolution, unfortunately, there were some restrictions in terms of getting everything to fit nicely, just in general, and in particular text. And so there's kind of a minimum size that everything fits, and that's the 720p size. And at that scale, you can't shrink it any smaller without having things start to overlap with each other. So if you're playing with the UI scale, it only works on the higher resolutions to give you back more game real estate. But at the lower resolutions, it's kind of already fixed because there's barely enough space to get everything to fit in the first place. Okay, next question here is from an excellent name. This is Brutilicis. I had this earlier.
Why you said it perfectly before the stream started.
Perfectly before the stream started.
Honestly, folks, he did.
Brutilis. I don't know. How would you say that, Justin?
Brutilicus?
Brutilicus? All right. Well, Brutilicus asks, they're not in the chat today. They'll let us know. How do I set the current formation directly from the Modron automation setup screen if not previously saved? The tooltip says to pick a formation, but I do not see the button to set current formation.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful suggestion. And there is currently no way to do this. You do have to exit out from the Modron setup screen, save your formation, go back to the Modron setup screen, select that formation. It's like 4 clicks, and I think it could definitely be optimized. So there's one to just use my current formation. I think that another thing that I would really like to see that hasn't been asked about, but I'd really like to see it is basically a saved formation that is set at the end of each adventure that overwrites itself each time. But it basically an easy way to be like, hey, I just want to load the formation that I was just using the last time I did this adventure or this this campaign, right? Like if I'm doing a bunch of Witchlight adventures all in a row, I could then just grab my formation from the last time I ran Witchlight. Because I find that oftentimes I'll have sort of my formations in other parties doing like variants or patron chores or whatnot, and so I won't necessarily have the same champions available that I would normally use in sort of my normal Witchlight campaign formation. So a couple of good updates there I think we could make to save formations and sort of how they interact with things.
I think they're challenges, Justin. Challenges. They're not chores. What are you talking about?
Did I say chores?
Okay. Next question is from the NeoVid. Question is, since you can only have 10 seasonal actives at once, could we get a way to rotate out the ones that are impossible for our account so they don't block other challenges?
This question, obviously, this came in last week, kind of when we were just at the beginning of week 2. I don't think this will be a problem moving forward. There's probably only 2 or 3 sort of seasonal challenges that would be extremely challenging for brand new accounts. Everything else is pretty much doable once you've kind of unlocked the 5 key champions from the season. So this is not likely something we will do, but we will keep an eye on sort of how many seasonal challenges people have active and whether we're seeing that number kind of go up and people are getting challenges locked out, even though they're actively playing and trying to complete those challenges. So yeah, I don't think this will be a problem, but we will keep our eye on it.
All right. Well, that therein is the end of the leftover questions from the previous show. So let's get started. First highlighted question from this show is from Great Big Slug. The question is, the patron quest for Collect X Gems from Boss Bags only works with the front party. Is that as designed?
It is, in fact, not as designed. But it is something that we are hoping to fix with the kind of the upcoming updates to offline progress and background progress, which is something I'm not sure if we talked about at the top of the show about the kind of progress with that. I don't see it in our list here of things to talk about. So this is maybe a good opportunity for Dave. Why don't you just say a few words about the upcoming updates to offline progress?
That's true. We haven't mentioned that in a few weeks. We do have, as many of you already know, ongoing updates to the offline progress system, something that Mark has actually been working on for the past, I don't know, are we going on 4 months now? We are in the beta phase. You may have noticed that I put out a message in the Discord earlier in the week inviting people to come and join the beta for that. Now, we did reach the number of people that we were able to handle for that for now, and so I know Mark is getting more than enough reports from the people who did make it into that in the first few hours. So that's actually really helpful for if you. So if you're one of the ones who's using the new beta client, hopefully things are working well for you and you've been able to provide some feedback for Mark, who I know is tracking down as many issues as possible before we eventually push that forward out to everybody. But yeah, definitely improvements for that are coming, and that includes the Collect X Gems from Boss Bag should be working on all of the parties, not just the front party. So yeah, stand by for more updates on that in the future, but I don't have a date or a timeline at this point for when that's going to go sort of to the broad player base. Okay. Cool. Next question. This one is from Wandering Bereft. The question is, the heroes of Erois are inexorably linked to the season and its rewards. In order to chase said rewards, the heroes of Erois are thus experiencing a large uptick in usage. How are you filtering out this purely seasonal related usage to gain insight into the underlying long-term efficacy or otherwise of the heroes of Erois changes?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think it's very challenging from an analytics perspective to filter out the season-related noise with Heroes of Erois, and we are seeing an enormous uptick in their usage. They are easily the top 5 used champions right now. Some of the things we're kind of seeing is just how they're being used together, and obviously our goal with the Erois rework. And of course with the season was to have people try and change up their meta and try playing with these 5 champions all together, and so we are thankfully seeing all 5 of the champions be used together. There's no one who's really been left on the outside who isn't getting as much usage as the other ones. But I think in terms of how the long-term trends will be for them, that'll be something we'll look at after the season ends, and we'll kind of watch their usage in the weeks and months after the season ends and see if people continue to use them. I do think that they will be used afterwards. I think Nova in particular, before the season started, had a very, very low usage. She was very niche in the way that she was used. You had to use her basically from the beginning of the run to the end of the run, and then she only really got more powerful than other champions in that same slot, like around area 1000 or higher. So there's a lot of differences in her kit that I think will be used, and we'll kind of see how other people get used. But I'm hopeful that they will be that we'll see some lingering usage of those champions after the season ends, because we did put a lot of work into making sure that they were competitive within the meta against some of the other meta formations. If not the number one formation, then certainly in the top 5.
Okay. Next question here is from Emote, asking, now that all of the Ox Ventures are out, it's clear from all of their numbers that Corazon is the weakest link of the group.
Aww.
The others are fairly average, and I don't mind that, but Corazon's numbers are falling flat. Any chance you'll see a buff?
Yeah, I think the corner we've painted ourselves into with seasons here is that most of the kind of champion reworks will come from the champions being featured in the season, or their affiliation being the key affiliation in the season. Just because of the amount of development time that the seasons take and the amount of development time we have, it's unlikely that we'll see any sort of major champion reworks outside of season champions, at least for the near future. We will still do some small tweaking through soft cap increases. So whenever we do a soft cap increase, we'll look at champion usage across the board and do smaller buffs for champions that are well utilized, and much bigger buffs for champions that are underutilized. So yeah, I think if we do an Ox Venture season, then I could certainly see Corazon getting some love there to try and bring up their usage. The next question here is from Gingerbeard Man, who asks, it's very close to Gingerbread Man, it's just the same. I get what they did there. They ask, can we get some UI indication if a champion is able to pass patron restrictions via a feat without having to memorize all of them, like a yellow crossed out circle instead of a red, or something else on the UI there?
Yeah, wow, rough today. This is a fairly common question, and I think I feel like we haven't made note of any particular action we can take on this, but it does feel like something that we should do in some regard, because, like I say, it is a fairly common question, and obviously, like, being able to tell if you can use a champion with a feat would be a significant boon in this case.
Yeah, it's not just patron restrictions, right? There's also some adventure variants that just require a champion to have a certain ability score. So I think it'd be very useful. Yeah, we just have to figure out how to indicate it.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. That's why there hasn't been any movement on this, but we should definitely think of something for that, because that would be very useful to have. So
yeah.
Okay, next question. This one is from Canelian. I know you've said that you have some trials changes in the works. Is it still the plan for day one restrictions to remain only champions of stat 10 or higher? If so, would you consider adding some stat feats that would allow extra champs to be eligible for eligible similar to the ones you have for patrons?
Yeah, so we are going to be looking at the day one restrictions. In fact, all of the restrictions. One of my parts of the trials changes is to go through and ensure that the kind of day one restrictions have a similar number of champions available for them after the restrictions. There are a couple that are a lot more rough than some of the others, and so for those ones, we'll likely pull the restriction down to require stat 8 or 9 or higher. So that we have a similar number of champions available in each bucket there. We don't want to have the possibility of you getting like a day one restriction that just completely makes your trials run kind of bunk, especially at the higher difficulties. One other thing I will say, though, is one of the things we are putting into this trial change is if you don't manage to beat or get your daily quest, reach the area requirement for a given day, rather than just immediately advancing to the next day and getting another restriction on top of that with a higher area requirement, what we're going to do is we'll just re-roll that day's restriction and keep your area requirement where it was. So that way, if you don't get that one day, you'll have another shot at it with a different restriction. Maybe you'll be able to do a different formation and then get through. So it should help people, especially in higher difficulties, if you get a really challenging day one restriction. should help you get through there eventually. Let's see. The next change from Lever1 is for you, Dave. Specifically for you.
See, I would have read that as Leverone. So, I mean,
Okay. Well, Extra Life is coming up. We can have our pronunciation stream. It'll be great. They ask, when are you going to be able to spend some dev time working on memory leaks? Because your game has become a RAM-hungry boy in the last month.
Just in the last month? I mean, I could poke fun at it. Certainly, we do have to do this on a regular basis. It is something that ends up falling on my plate when it comes up, typically because everyone is otherwise tasked with other things. And when this does come up, what I typically do is find a formation that has been reported to be something that's causing memory leaks, typically ones that get large enough for to take the game down. And then I run them in the development environment and take snapshots of the memory as I go and find where things are growing. So if you have a formation that reliably gets larger and larger, if you send a ticket in and you can, in the ticket say, Dave's looking for memory or accounts with memory leaks or with what appears that might be, Sean or Taylor can pass that on to me and I can take that account and then run it and see what's happening there. But typically it ends up being something that's in a champion that had been released in a period between the last time we did that and checked it, or an ability that's changed, something like that. So if you have a formation that is causing what appears to be a leak, send it in attention David, and Sean or Taylor will pass it on to me and I can run it and see if there is something happening there. Okay, next question. This one is from Super Collins. Super Collins asks, have you thought of putting in background quests like you did with Champions of the Lost Isles, Crusaders of the Lost Isles, or background parties for filling that purpose? Or are background parties filling that purpose? There we go.
Yes.
Got it.
So this is a question, the game they're talking about is Crusaders of the Lost Isles. It's our previous kind of idle game, the precursor to Idle Champions. And in that game, we have something that functions, very similar to like the garrison feature in World of Warcraft, if anyone's played that, where you can basically assign your Crusaders that you're not using in your formation to go off and do kind of background quests. And the answer to this question is yes, background parties, multi-party is something that is intended to fill that purpose. The purpose of that, the purpose of that is to basically give you something to do with all of the Crusaders or champions that you're not using in your main party. In Crusaders, you could have between like 14 and 16 Crusaders in the party. And I think at the time at which we sunset that game, I think we were potentially over 200. And so that basically means you got like 180 to 190 Crusaders that you're not using at a time. So we had to give you something to deal with those. Similar in Idle Champions, we're well into the 100 and teens at this point in terms of the number of champions. You get 10 per formation. So we're trying to make it so you use more than just 10 of your champions at any time by giving you those background parties and giving you other parties to do. So we'll keep on adding background parties, or giving you until we'll keep on adding background parties until we get to the point where there are too many background parties, and then we will consider
adding
other
missions
options. We'll see.
I mean, I remember when I pulled that whole code system out and you were like, "We'll never use it." I was like, "You promise?" And you're like, "Nope, we're never going to need it. Pull it out." So
if we do something, we'll do something different.
All right. Next question here is from Rough Rider 91. The question is, should Tatiana have a cap on her speed gear?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been asked about before, and I've heard some funny anecdotal incidents of this. But basically, Tatiana's speed gear, the way it works is she has an ability where she will run off screen, and when she comes running back, she's holding a bunch of food. But she spawns a bunch of enemies behind her, assumedly the enemies that she stole the food from. And by leveling up her speed gear to egregiously high numbers, you can get it to spawn, the maximum number of enemies that can be on the screen at once, so that your PC doesn't burst into flames, is 100. And so she can basically make it so she runs off and then spawns 100 enemies essentially all at the same time. That is obviously something that we do need to cap. So I believe I have, I believe I talked to Peter about this the other day and instructed him to figure out what the number is to cap it at. So we'll just highlight this and make sure that gets added to the list. It should be a relatively easy thing to do. And then for all you folks who have spent a whole bunch of blacksmithing contracts on Tatiana, you'll get some back.
You sure the option shouldn't just be to spawn 300 enemies?
I'm sure.
Okay, next question is from Asa Smith 2610. Is it possible to add an alignment counter to the Freely's upgrade paths? For example, how many lawful champs there are in the formation at that time?
Do you think this user is from the future? Because like oftentimes people will put like the year they were born in their username. You know, it'll be like fun guy 83 or something, right? And
yes,
that's not my username. Okay. Anyway, yeah, okay. So the question is,
they've got like a sports almanac they can give us? Is this
I would love a sports almanac from the year 2610. Anyway, oh, they say it's their birthday, not my year. So they were born. What's the 26th month? Anyway, so the easy answer to this question, which was basically to add those little hints to specialization choices, is yes, that is something that we are planning on doing. We're planning on doing that for, I think Freely is definitely on the list. I think there's a couple of other champions that are on the list that have similar type of abilities that basically are powered up or power up certain champions in the formation. We've also been talking about adding this to some of the champions that have like a particular favored enemy, like Minx, so that he will tell you what percentage of the areas in the current adventure have enemies that match the favored enemy that you're choosing. So I think that'll be super useful. Apparently Egbert needs this feature as well. I'm surprised we didn't get it in there by default, but yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff we're looking at doing with relation to this. Good question. Next question is from Maxi Qbert.
It's Max IQ Bert.
No, it's Maxi Qbert. Qbert's the little character. It's got like the nose thing, you know, from the video, like that hops up the. Isn't that it? Okay. Anyway. We're just gonna spend the whole stream just talking about players' names rather than answering questions. Yeah, jumped on the pyramid. That's right, Rough Rider. Anyway, can we have a challenge complete thing for seasons? Is what they asked.
Sure. I think sure. Can we do that? I mean, I think so. The question is really, can we have something that brings a little more attention to challenges or quests rather as they complete in seasons? Yeah. And I think I don't see any reason why we couldn't do something similar or just pop it off the side of the.
It's already on the to-do list. Already on the to-do list for season 2.
Well, there we go. Don't even have to highlight it.
Nope.
Okay, next question then. This one is from Tormunda. Try and tell a story about that. To get Briv's achievement, it took me leaving my PC running on 100 relentless zombie mission for around 70 hours straight at top speed. Is that working as intended?
So I had to go look this one up because I wasn't 100%. I couldn't 100% remember what Briv's achievement was. And I did find a couple of Reddit posts asking about it, including one from 3 years ago where Garwar had a good suggestion of how you can do it in about 30 minutes. It is never our intention that there be a champion achievement that takes multiple days to get. In general, we try to balance those achievements so it's you can get it during the event pretty easily without having to without having to do anything super special. Some are a little bit more challenging. They require a little bit of finesse to kind of find the right situation that grants the achievement. But certainly, 70 hours straight is not the intended way to get it done. So definitely, if you can, give a little Google there, see if you can find that Garwar guide, and you should be able to get it a lot faster. Of course, you've already got it, so might not help you at this point, but you can check it out to see kind of the way that he suggested getting it. Let's see. Next question. Maybe you want to ask me this one.
No, sorry. I was just busy highlighting all the questions.
Look at all those questions that are highlighted.
Where are we at? All right. The next one here is from the Lurking Writer. Okay, I'll give you a moment to say something about the name.
No, that's...
No? Okay, cool. We'll move on. Can we have a tooltip on gear items that have caps or a maximum number of levels to indicate that said items can be/are capped? Basically some form of visual indicator of this. Even a level 100 out of 251 title change, for example, would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think we could even maybe do something where for ones that aren't, like we adopt that level X out of Y thing, and for ones that don't have a cap,
we could put a little progress bar.
No, because most of them aren't capped. So on those ones, we'd have like level X out of, and then we could just do a little infinity sign.
But people like to fill little progress bars.
But you can't fill a progress bar that's out of infinity.
They don't know that.
I know that.
All right. It's your favorite time of the episode, Justin.
It is my favorite time. It's 2:32, which means it's time for a giveaway. So people who have never been in chat before, this is how this works. We're going to give one person in chat 42 chests of your choice. The way that this works is momentarily, depending on if I talk long enough, a little thing will pop up from Moobot in chat there, and we'll give you a little keyword. You take that keyword, you paste it into the chat bar, you hit enter, and you'll be entered into a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. It can be any chests that are in the game, except for Glory of Bahamut chests for some reason. Probably because I said so. I just don't remember doing it. You could do Modron core chests. I think Silver Rosy chests are a really popular one if you're a certain one player.
You get rose gold chests. That works with that, right? Yeah. I know the players are already asking for the tin chests. They know the drill.
Oh, God.
Aluminum chests. Copper chests. Come on.
Yeah.
Clairvoyant admin chests.
You could get season chests. That's one that you could legitimately get. You could get the Aroas chests. Though be sure to get there's actually two types of Aroas chests, because we did one before as a weekend promo chest. So make sure you get the season the season Aroas chests instead of the Heroes of Aroas chests. Let's see. The next question. Well, you could ask me this one instead.
All right, go ahead. I'll go ahead.
Yes.
This one is from OG17, and the question is, will the free-to-play season track be changed beyond the new familiar?
So for season 1, this is, I don't think we're planning any future free-to-play season track changes. For season 2, we've been putting that together based upon sort of feedback from season 1 and like our own feelings about season 1, and so there are a couple of changes coming to the season track or the free-to-play track in season 2. We're going to put a little bit more stuff in there, and I think it'll be pretty exciting to see. But we're not really ready to talk about the specifics of what's going to be in there yet.
Right.
But definitely, we're reading a lot of the feedback on all the regular sources, and yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, before we hop down here, and Justin, there's a whole ton of questions here around the hashtag Jeremy Clawford. I don't know if you want to say anything to that before we move on, because there's like 5 or 6 questions here in a row that are all a similar theme.
Yeah, I think I would say just keep on keep on protesting for Jeremy Clawford there. Keep it in.
Are they protesting, Justin?
I assume they're just running around with signs being like, "Bring the tiger."
What do we want, Jeremy Clawford? When do we want it, Jeremy Clawford?
Is that another Futurama reference?
What do we want? Prize dog.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so. It sounded like a Futurama reference. So yeah, just keep on letting us know that you want that, and we'll see.
The word is advocating for it, Justin. Advocating.
That's the one. Okay. Keep on advocating. Every stream, every chat. Open a bunch of tickets. No, don't open tickets. I'm just kidding.
This is how we know if Sean is watching or not. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next actual questions here that are highlighted. The next question here is from Snobiger. Yeah, Dave agrees. And they say, within the Legendary Forge screen, could we get a radio button for all owned champions, only champs with legendaries, or only champs without legendaries? And then Mars also notes here, or any ordering method at all, please. Right now it is currently ordered by champion ID with, I think, 12 per page. It sucks.
I know. I mean, he says it's not player facing, but champion ID is actually like release date and close enough. But
it's not even a release date though, because of evergreens.
Fair enough. It's mostly by release date. It's pseudo organized by release date. It's pretty close. 19 times out of 20, it'll be the release date. So I mean, that sounds like a great idea to me. This was an easy question. There should be some kind of filtering on that. I think we should definitely add that in there. So I'm just going to grab it and highlight it.
Yeah.
Bonk. Consider it highlighted.
Next question is from Nunon, who asks, would it be possible to get auto-generated, obviously, subtitles added to Dev Insights, like on Mars and Garwar stream?
Right. So I picked this one. This is also a really great and easy question. We do have those.
We do.
They're not embedded into the video the way that I believe Mars and Garwar does. But if you turn on the closed captioning button on the Twitch overlay, on Twitch itself, let me see if I can hop up and do that. Yes, the little CC. Click it. There we go. I can see myself in the past. What I said 2 seconds. Oh, I'm going to stop watching that. That's hard to talk and to watch. It's almost sort of like voice jam, but it works. Mostly works. Some of it's a little ad lib, but so that is there, and that's available if you just hit the closed captioning button. Cool.
Great. Now you're getting all the easy questions here. Next question is from Lord Javax, and they say, "Can we get a way to lock the campaign map? Scrolling up every adventure to be picked is taxing."
So I'm pretty sure that's Lord Java XX.
Okay.
So I think this is answered, and if not, I think this is answered by the change that we added in the latest build, where the campaign map will now go to the last adventure that you played, rather than scrolling down to the next available one. So unless you're talking about something different than that, consider that one fixed and out.
Great. And the next question is also for you. You just highlighted a whole bunch in a row. Did you even read these, or do you just
just grab the whole section, made it blue?
So the next question is from Tormunda, who asks, their regular one, LOL. Any more news on when we will get Shop 3? I want my nerds.
Soon. TM. Actually, no, soon without the TM. Certainly, this has been a long time coming. We are at the final stretch for this. We're actually just preparing some tech for how we're going to allow that to roll out for everybody, and sort of how we're going to stagger that. But it's in the works, and it will be fairly soon. And by fairly soon, I mean soon. I don't have the exact date, but very soon. So, I do have the exact date. I don't know that Chris wants me to tell you. So blame Chris, but very soon.
It is soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. The next question is from Super Collins, who says, would it be possible to change the button to access alternate maps?
Hold up.
Okay,
I see C&E Chris in the chat. He says say it. Now, as long as this is actually C&E Chris and not someone pretending to be C&E Chris.
Well, he's got a little dagger next to him, so I assume it is.
All right. In that case, we hope to have the ability to opt in to Shop 3 go live next Friday. So Friday, October 7th. And then before the end of the month, and I don't remember what the exact date is, but before the end of October, we'll be switching everybody over to Shop 3, but you have an advanced opportunity to switch starting on the 7th. And there should be some fun items available in the shop. Shop 3, some stuff that people haven't seen yet that will be available when you do. So,
like nerds.
No, people have seen that one. They know that one.
And other things.
Someone is saying soon. No. Oh, I read that as November 7th. No, October 7th.
It's Noct 7th.
Yeah, I see that.
Noct 7th.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Next question is from Super Collins, who got half their question out before they got interrupted by Chris. Oh, blame Chris. Would it be possible to change the button to access alternate maps in the campaign to make it bigger? On mobile, it is extremely difficult to tap the button to go to other maps within each campaign. Maybe just make the whole map picture a button.
Yeah,
not just a button?
I don't think it is. I feel like I got this request last week.
Should be.
And if I didn't tag it then, I'm tagging it now. I think it just should be. There's no reason why that whole thing shouldn't be a button. Like, none at all. So let's make the whole thing a button.
Yeah.
All right.
I also feel like that should all be one.
Next question. This one is from Yamami Omate.
Sure.
Or maybe it's not a question. Maybe it's a challenge. Can you design a tank champion that's not a support? So no support, chore, doesn't
challenge.
Mean no tank except for Arcan.
Yeah, this is a really good question, and it kind of comes down to our philosophy towards champions. We have at times tried to think about what a tank-only champion would be like, and unfortunately, the kind of conclusion we come to is that a tank-only champion would be an amazing bench warmer, who would probably not get used except potentially in a one challenge where you don't use support. And the reason for that is sort of the meta of the game is you've got your DPS champion and you've got a bunch of support champions supporting them. And because of sort of how far we are into the game, once you're at kind of your soft cap, each support champion is contributing around E to the 20 or more an increase to your damage. And so by taking out a support and replacing it with a tank-only champion, unfortunately, what you're going to do is just kind of get knocked back whatever the equivalent of E to the 20 areas is. You could certainly make that champion like speed or gold find or healing, but you are going to not be able to get as far with that champion as a champion that is support. So I don't think it really makes a lot of sense to do a tank-only champion. We will unlikely be doing that. I do think we do have a tanking DPS champion coming up soon. So that might help you out with the no support challenge. But we certainly will not be doing a lot of champions that are not either DPS or support. Basically, that tag is going to be on every single champion. So it's either going to be tank DPS or tank support when we've got a tank. It's unlikely to not include one of those two.
All right, where are we at? Next question is from Shraven420. Can we get a filter in the time gate menu for time gate only champions? And
yeah.
Okay.
I think this makes sense. I think sorry, just to clarify for people who aren't sure what we're talking about here, a time gate only champion, my assumption would be what you mean by that is a champion that is no longer available in events. So a champion that you can only get by either doing a time gate or going into the shop and spending some real money. And so, yeah, I think that's something that we could definitely do. You know, I'm not sure how the sorting. No, there's just sorting by next availability, which I think just looks at the event time and doesn't actually distinguish between when that champion will become available, like if that champion is retired. So yeah, I think that this is something we should definitely do, so that newer players to the game can find champions that they can't get any other way and grab them from the time gate. Know that they can only get them from the time gate. There are also, I should mention, since Mark's took the time to write here, there are also some very good community guides as to which champions are available or which champions are retired, which champions you should maybe focus on in time gates. So definitely just tune in to any of Mars's shows or Gar's guides, and you guys can surely find that information quite quickly.
All right. Next question here is from Illadar13. Will we see campaigns for 11 or 12 slots in formation?
Yeah, so this is a question of whether we'll have more than 10 slots in a formation where you can put champions. The answer is probably not. I don't have any plans to do that right now. We did do a kind of cheeky formation for the Light of Xerixis campaign, where there are technically 11 slots in that formation. So I was able to make the claim that, yes, we're doing an 11-slot campaign soon. But unfortunately, one of them is always going to be filled by an escort. At least one of them will always be filled by an escort. So we will maintain that kind of 10 champions thing. And the reason for that is just that's kind of what the game has been balanced around. And so by doing an 11 or 12 slot formation, because each support champion, like I said, is an E to the 20 or higher boost to your damage, you'd be able to get further, and we'd have to kind of balance favor gain and stuff like that. There's someone mentioning in chat that Sword Coast does just have 9 slots. And I would like to hashtag blame 5 year ago me for that. Certainly won't be something that we'll be doing anytime ever again.
All right. Next question here. It's from Maniac Clown. And Maniac Clown asks, do all Modron pieces within a rarity have an equal chance of coming up in chests? I have 5 of the cross pieces that's in from the sides and out the top and bottom. And if they're all equally likely within a rarity, I think it highly unlikely for me to have gotten that many of one epic piece.
Yeah, so the answer to this question is yes, they do all have the same rarity. There is no, as far as I'm aware, there are no pieces within a rarity that have a higher or lower chance. They're all equally likely. So it sounds like you've gotten very, I'd like to say, lucky. You've gotten a very rare combination of drops. So yeah,
drops are one of those things that we've been, I guess, sort of dealing with as a user expectation for as long as we've been doing game development. And that is because, unfortunately, what ends up happening is when you have a large enough player base, any sort of even just sort of the highly unlikely cases are guaranteed to happen, and they're guaranteed to happen to some large number of people. And so sort of one of the things we learned early on with one of our first games, Eggbreaker, is that you have to fudge some of those odds to get distributions in that people are actually happy with, because unfortunately, if you've got if you do a 10,000 drops on something that has like a 1 in 100 chance of coming out in a way that someone isn't going to like, and you do it 5 times in a row, you end up, I'm not going to do the math right here on stream because I don't have it in front of me, but some non-insignificant number of those 10,000 players are going to get that 1 in 100 thing, and they're going to get it, 10 times in a row, and they are not going to be happy, and they're definitely going to come claiming that this can't possibly have happened. But the problem is, it happened across a really large number of people, and if you looked at the distribution, that it was going to happen to, or it was not necessarily going to happen, but probabilistically it was going to happen to that number of people. Which is why, like I say, this sort of system, sometimes we end up having to put in a little bit of a fudge factor so that it doesn't happen that way. Okay.
Yes. Good answer. Next question is from Fanko Fafu, and they said, "I am a young player, and I assume a new player, and I heard about Shop 3 to buy nerds. Is it real? Or is it just fantasy? Caught in a landslide.
I don't think we're doing
reality.
This is Futurama reference episode, not definitely real, 100%.
Yeah, they're once the new shop experience is released to everyone or is accessible to everyone, there is a champion in there you can buy made up of little candy nerds. And that champion was originally released as part of a actual like physical real nerds like promotion that we did with D&D and the company that makes nerds. I don't know which candy company it was. I can't remember. But yeah, it's a fun little champion who is not really super useful, but
fair enough. Okay.
I'm really selling it. You should definitely upgrade to the new shop.
We still have
nerds.
Some of those bags of gummy nerd candy here in the office that are just like sickly sweet.
I ate a whole bunch of them.
You shouldn't have.
And then I had to go for a run.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next question here is from Adam YMHMI. Okay. Are there any plans to add a symbol to indicate what abilities are considered positional formation abilities as opposed to just formation abilities?
Yes, there is. This is a good idea. This is something we want to do. I think that right now, we've got a couple of champions who either augment or usurp or steal positional formation abilities. And there is really no clear indication of what is or is not a positional formation ability. So we do have plans at some point in the future to categorize all the abilities and have sort of little icons next to them that'll let you know at a glance, like, is this a DPS ability? Is this a support ability? Is it healing? Is it positional? Is it tag based? Does it affect everyone? Does it debuff enemies, etc.? So that is something that the design team is working on. We're working on categorizing all of those things, and hopefully at some point we will get that into the game. Next question is from Avery with a 3 instead of an E. And they ask, or they say, I play on an iPad, and as you know, we don't have the ability to press shift. So they don't have the ability to press shift and click on the zone slider like on PC. Would it be possible to add a UI element for non-PC players to be able to jump to zone 1 and assumedly back to zone max?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, one of the things that we try to be super careful about is kind of adding additional buttons to things, especially because that area is pretty tight. But it might be a possibility that we could add a push and hold to jump you to 1. That might be an option that wouldn't involve adding additional elements. Yeah. I'm going to think about that one, tag it. I know we do something similar on console because we have if you hold the stick over and let go, it goes back 1 area. And if you hold, it fills up a little circle. And once it's full, it takes you all the way back. So I think maybe a click and a hold would be an option there. But yeah, I appreciate the desire to be able to jump back, especially for reorganizing. So I'm going to tag that and see if we can get that looked at. But like I say, probably be a click and hold, not a button. But I'm sure that'll be equally satisfying. Or, you can get a USB keyboard. I wonder if that actually works when you're on your iPad. If you plug in a USB-C keyboard.
I don't know. Probably.
Bluetooth? You get Bluetooth keyboards for them.
Probably
I bet it works.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Next question is from Lightning Hawk. Lightning Hawk asks, can we get different colored icons on the tracker for seasons, quests, dailies, and milestones? Like say pink for milestones, blue for weeklies, green one for dailies, to help them be more easily identified.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to differentiate those. We certainly differentiate them on the dialogue with slightly different colors. I'm sure we can just pull those colors over into, do some tinting or something on the
Did we not put the icons on, like I said, they're asking for different colored icons on the tracker. Did we not put icons on there indicating like whether they were...
There's one that's just for seasons.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So it's all of the season ones have the same icon.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
so
I misunderstood.
There's something we can probably do there.
Yeah, okay. Next question is from Plum Cross. If they're not mad at us. Event champions are getting a tune-up with seasons. Any chance that Evergreen / Core champs could get some love too?
Yes, there is a chance. We are focused mainly on event champions for this stuff, but there is a chance that some Evergreen or Core champions could pop in there at some point. I don't think we have any plans to do it for the next season, but maybe at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, and just a note from the previous question, we'd probably make those icons different shapes rather than just different colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are running low on time, but we can certainly do a couple more questions here.
Sure. Go with the next question.
Yes. So the next one's from...
you want to ask it. Go for it.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm asking you because
I have
I've
an
answered
answer
this
for
one
it?
too many times. This one's from Jake, probably. That's their actual name. And they ask, any thoughts on getting a toggleable on-off box for ults so champions like Nerds, Celise, or Beetle and Grim can be put in a formation with a familiar roaming on the ultimates and not have it affect them?
I forget what your answer usually is. Is the answer maybe?
The answer is always maybe. If I can't, if I think of a way to do it, but I don't know if we'll have the tech time for it.
Yeah,
we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I remember now. It is a really tricky one because there's not a very sort of a clean place to put that and store that particular sort of setting for the ultimate or for the familiar. So it's a little tricky, but it would definitely be nice. I think that'd be great if we had if we had a way that made sense to do that would be understandable from a user interface perspective.
Mm-hmm.
All right, one last question, and then we're going to be out of time. This question is from the Neovid, and the question is, why are all of Havilar's feats 50k gems, even the +1 stat boosts?
Are all of them 50k gems? That's interesting. So I guess the 50k gem ones are the ones that come from packs, so DLC packs that we've released, and then the ones that are 12.5k are basically ones that were built in that came out when she released, and those are for rare ones generally. She probably doesn't have that many because she's got some that are in chests. Basically, the ones that aren't unlocked, the ones that aren't uncommon and are unlocked kind of when the champion comes out, or can be unlocked when the champion comes out, either go into chests or are for 12,500 gems. So my guess is that we released Havilar with probably 2 chest feats and 1 basic gem feat, and then the rest of her feats that are for gems have all come from DLC. That would be my guess of why that is.
Okay. Well, good news, everyone. That's all the time we have. Wait, that's not good news at all.
Okay. If we didn't get to your question your week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. We will be back again at this same time next week, hopefully with less Futurama references. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week, it was Mars and Martin. Thanks. They're the two folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally keep the chat pretty awesome. I can't speak anymore.
You're channeling me. All right. And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, playing the game, and asking such great questions, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. That's all we have time for. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Next week, we'll have even more Futurama references.
No. Is that a Futurama reference? Do they say that at some point?
I mean, only if the script called for you to say yes.